Girl tamed him in one night, thought he was a poor guy, and took him home. Turns out, he's a CEO. It's amazing how one decision can change everything. Imagine this. A quiet, unassuming girl who always plays it safe decides to take a chance on someone she thinks is just like her. A struggling soul trying to make ends meet. She has no idea that the stranger she brings into her life will turn her world upside down in ways she never imagined. That's exactly what happened to Emma, an ordinary woman with an extraordinary heart, on a night she thought would be just like any other. But little did she know, the man she met wasn't just another face in the crowd. He was a billionaire CEO, hiding behind a disguise. What starts as an act of kindness quickly spirals into something far more complicated, and by the time Emma realizes the truth, it might already be too late. Emma had seen him sitting alone at the dimly lit corner table in the small cafe where she worked part-time. He looked tired, almost defeated, wearing clothes that were clean but clearly worn out. His hair was messy, his shoes scuffed, and there was something about him that made her pause. Maybe it was the way he stared blankly at his coffee cup, lost in thought, or maybe it was the faint sadness in his eyes. Whatever it was, it tugged at her heartstrings. Emma wasn't one to pry, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that this man needed help, or at least someone to listen. So when closing time came around and he still hadn't left, she approached him cautiously, asking if he was okay. The man introduced himself as Liam. Though he didn't offer much else, he spoke softly, his voice tinged with gratitude. When Emma offered him a warm meal from the leftovers they usually threw away after closing, they talked for a while, sharing bits and pieces of their lives without revealing too much. Liam mentioned being new in town and having hit rock bottom, though he didn't elaborate on why. Emma, on the other hand, opened up about her own struggles, working 2 jobs to pay rent, taking care of her younger brother, and dreaming of a better future. Despite their differences, there was an undeniable connection between them, a shared understanding of hardship that bonded them instantly. By the end of the conversation, Emma found herself doing something completely out of character, inviting Liam to stay at her place for the night. At first, Liam hesitated, insisting he didn't want to impose. But Emma insisted even harder, saying it was freezing outside and she couldn't let him sleep on the streets. Her apartment wasn't much. A tiny studio with mismatched furniture and peeling paint, but it was home, and she wanted to share it with someone who seemed to need it more than she did. Reluctantly, Liam agreed, and as they walked back together through the deserted streets, Emma felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She barely knew this man, yet she trusted him implicitly. It was irrational, but sometimes trust doesn't need logic. It just happens. Back at her apartment, Emma tried to make Liam comfortable, offering him the couch while she slept on the floor nearby. As they settled in for the night, they continued talking, delving deeper into each other's stories. Liam admitted he used to have big dreams once, dreams that got crushed by circumstances beyond his control. He sounded bitter, yet hopeful, like someone who hadn't given up entirely. Emma admired that resilience, seeing glimpses of herself in him. For a moment, she forgot about her own problems, focusing instead on helping him feel less alone. And then, as dawn broke and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, Liam finally drifted off to sleep, leaving Emma wide awake, with thoughts racing through her mind. The next morning, things took an unexpected turn. Emma woke up to find Liam gone, leaving behind only a note and a crumpled $100 bill on the kitchen counter. The note read, "Thank you for reminding me what kindness feels like. You've changed my perspective." Confused but touched, Emma tucked the money into her wallet, thinking it was probably all he had. She went about her day, trying to focus on work and her responsibilities. But Liam's words lingered in her mind. Who was he really? Why did he leave so abruptly? And, most importantly, why did she feel like she'd missed out on something significant? Later that evening, as Emma scrolled through social media during a rare break, she stumbled upon a news article that stopped her cold. The headline read, "Billionaire CEO returns after month-long disappearance." Below it was a photo of none other than Liam, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, standing confidently in front of a skyscraper, emblazoned with the logo of his company. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was the man she had taken in really that Liam? The same person everyone was talking about online? Her hands trembled as she clicked on the article, reading about how he had disappeared weeks ago, citing burnout and a desire to reconnect with reality. No one knew where he had gone or what he had done during that time, until now. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The worn-out clothes, the vague answers, the mysterious departure. It all made sense. Liam hadn't been some random guy, down on his luck. He had been testing the waters, seeing how people treated him when they thought he had nothing. And Emma, unknowingly, had passed his test with flying colors. But what did that mean for her now? Did he see her as just another person who showed him kindness? Or was there something more to it? Questions swirled in her head, each one bringing a fresh wave of uncertainty. As days turned into weeks, Emma tried to move on, convincing herself that Liam was probably long gone, back to his luxurious life of board meetings and private jets. Yet, deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that their paths weren't meant to cross just once. Then, one evening, as she locked up the cafe and stepped outside, she froze. Standing under the flickering streetlight was a familiar figure, watching her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. It was Liam, looking every bit the powerful executive from the photos, yet somehow still carrying the vulnerability she remembered from that fateful night. "Emma," he said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "We need to talk." Her breath caught in her throat. This was it, the moment she had been dreading and anticipating all at once. But before she could respond, he held up a hand, signaling for her to wait. "Not here," he added, glancing around at the curious stares of passers-by. "Come with me." And just like that, Emma faced a choice. Should she follow him, diving headfirst into whatever secrets he was about to reveal? Or should she walk away, protecting herself from potential heartbreak? The answer wasn't clear, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change forever. Emma hesitated, her feet rooted to the spot as she stared at Liam. The man who had once seemed so vulnerable now exuded an aura of authority and confidence that was almost intimidating. Yet beneath that polished exterior, she could still see traces of the person she had met in the cafe, the man who had shared his fears and dreams with her under the cover of darkness. Her heart raced as conflicting emotions battled within her. Curiosity, fear, excitement, and a nagging sense of betrayal. Was this some twisted game to him? Or was there more to it than met the eye? Taking a deep breath, she finally nodded, clutching her bag tightly as she followed him to a sleek black car parked nearby. The driver opened the door for her, but Liam gestured for him to step aside. "I'll drive," he said firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. As they settled into the plush leather seats, Emma couldn't help but feel out of place. This world, his world, was so far removed from the one she inhabited daily. It wasn't just the luxury. It was the weight of expectations, the pressure of living up to standards she didn't even understand. She glanced at Liam, searching for answers in his expression. But his focus remained fixed on the road ahead. The silence between them was heavy, each moment stretching longer than the last. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Emma broke the quiet. "Why are you here, Liam?" Her voice wavered slightly, betraying the storm of emotions inside her. He glanced at her briefly before returning his gaze to the road. "Because I owe you an explanation," he replied, his words measured, yet tinged with something deeper. Regret, perhaps, or guilt. "And because I need your help," her brow furrowed in confusion. "My help? With what?" Liam sighed, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "You showed me something I'd forgotten. A glimpse of humanity, of authenticity. That night wasn't part of some grand plan. It was desperation. I needed to escape the life I'd built, to see if people would treat me differently when they thought I had nothing. And then I met you." He paused, glancing at her again, his eyes softening. "You didn't judge me. You didn't ask for anything in return. You just cared." Emma swallowed hard, unsure how to process his words. On one hand, she felt validated, knowing her instincts about him hadn't been wrong. But on the other hand, anger simmered beneath the surface. "So what happens now?" she asked, her voice sharper than intended. "Do I get a pat on the back for being kind? Do you go back to your billionaire life while I stay stuck in mine?" He flinched at her tone, clearly affected by her words. "No," he said firmly. "That's not why I'm here. My company is in trouble, Emma. Not financially. We're doing better than ever, but morally. I've lost sight of why I started it in the first place. People have become numbers. Relationships have turned transactional, and I don't recognize myself anymore. I wanted to step away, to figure things out, but now I realize I can't do it alone." Emma folded her arms across her chest, skepticism etched on her face. "And you think I can fix that? I'm nobody, Liam. Just a girl working 2 jobs. To survive. What could I possibly offer someone like you?" "You'd be surprised," he murmured, pulling the car over near a scenic overlook overlooking the city skyline. The lights twinkled below, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside the vehicle. Turning to face her, he continued, "You reminded me of what truly matters. Integrity, compassion, connection. Those aren't skills you learn in business school. They're qualities you live by. And right now, my company needs someone like you to remind us all of those values." Emma shook her head, overwhelmed by the weight of his request. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "You're asking me to step into a world I don't belong in, to risk everything I've worked for on a gamble that might not even work." "It's not a gamble," Liam insisted, leaning closer. "It's a chance for both of us, for me to rediscover who I am, and for you to show the world what you're capable of. Together, we can change things. Not just for my company, but for everyone it touches." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the city below filled the silence as Emma wrestled with her decision. Part of her wanted to run, to retreat to the safety of her predictable life. But another part, the part that had always dreamed of making a difference, yearned to take the leap, to see where this journey might lead. Finally, she looked at him, resolve hardening in her eyes. "If I agree to this, it's not because I trust you. It's because I believe in what you're trying to achieve. But make no mistake, Liam. If you cross me, if you use me, I won't hesitate to walk away." A flicker of relief crossed his face, quickly replaced by determination. "Fair enough," he said, extending his hand. "Deal." Emma hesitated for a fraction of a second before shaking his hand. The contact sent a jolt through her, a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. Little did she know, this agreement would set off a chain reaction neither of them could have anticipated. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself thrust into a whirlwind of board meetings, corporate strategies, and high-stakes negotiations. At first, she struggled to adapt, feeling like an imposter among the polished executives who eyed her with thinly veiled disdain. But slowly, she began to find her footing, using her unique perspective to challenge the status quo and push for meaningful change. Her ideas sparked debates, her questions forced reflection, and her unwavering moral compass inspired others to reconsider their priorities. Meanwhile, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Rumors spread about Emma's sudden rise, fueled by jealous colleagues and skeptical shareholders. Some accused Liam of indulging in a reckless experiment. Others speculated about ulterior motives behind their partnership. Through it all, Emma and Liam grew closer, their bond forged in the fires of adversity. Yet doubts lingered. Could their fledgling relationship withstand the pressures of the corporate world? And what would happen when the truth about their past came to light as the climax approached? A major scandal threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. An anonymous whistleblower exposed unethical practices within the company, implicating several top executives, including Liam himself. The media frenzy was relentless, painting him as a hypocrite who preached morality while engaging in corruption. Panic rippled through the organization, and allies turned into adversaries overnight. In the midst of chaos, Emma faced her greatest test yet. Would she stand by Liam, defending the man she believed in, despite the mounting evidence against him? Or would she cut her losses and distance herself from the disaster unfolding around them? The choice loomed large, casting a shadow over everything they had built together. With time running out and stakes higher than ever, Emma prepared to confront the truth head-on. But as she dug deeper, uncovering secrets that went far beyond what anyone suspected, she realized the real battle wasn't just about saving the company, it was about saving themselves. As Emma sifted through the documents and emails that had been leaked, her heart sank. The evidence against Liam was damning. Contracts signed under questionable circumstances, deals struck with morally ambiguous partners, and decisions made in the name of profit over principle. It seemed impossible to reconcile this version of him with the man who had shared his fears with her in the quiet safety of her tiny apartment. But as she read deeper, something caught her eye: timestamps, signatures, and details that didn't quite add up. Someone had manipulated the records, framing Liam for crimes he hadn't committed. Her mind raced as pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. She remembered the whispers in board meetings, the sidelong glances from executives who resented her presence, and the way certain individuals always seemed one step ahead. There was a traitor within the company, someone using the scandal to seize power, and they were willing to destroy anyone who stood in their way. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma reached out to an old friend who worked in cybersecurity. Together, they traced the origins of the leak back to none other than Victor Hale, the CFO and one of Liam's closest confidants. Confronting Victor wasn't easy. He was cunning, charismatic, and had spent years building alliances within the company. When Emma presented her findings to Liam, he initially refused to believe it. "Victor has been with me since the beginning," he said, his voice heavy with disbelief. "He wouldn't betray me like this." But Emma pressed on, reminding him of how much they both stood to lose if they didn't act fast. Reluctantly, Liam agreed to set a trap, luring Victor into revealing his hand during an emergency shareholder meeting. The day of the meeting arrived, and the tension in the room was palpable. Executives sat stiffly in their chairs, while reporters crowded outside, eager for a statement. As Liam took the stage, flanked by Emma, he addressed the allegations head-on. For the first time, he admitted his mistakes. Not the ones Victor had fabricated, but the real ones. He spoke candidly about losing sight of his values, about prioritizing profits over people, and about the lessons he'd learned thanks to Emma's influence. His honesty disarmed many in the audience, softening their judgment just enough to give him a fighting chance. Then came the moment of reckoning. Emma stepped forward, presenting the evidence they had gathered against Victor. Her voice trembled at first, but as she recounted the painstaking investigation and exposed the inconsistencies in the leaked documents, her confidence grew. By the time she finished, the room was silent, every pair of eyes fixed on Victor, who shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Cornered, he tried to deny everything, but when confronted with irrefutable proof, a recording of him orchestrating the scheme, he crumbled, confessing to the betrayal in a desperate attempt to save face. With Victor's arrest, the tide turned. Shareholders rallied behind Liam, impressed not only by his transparency, but also by the transformation they saw in him. Under Emma's guidance, he implemented sweeping reforms, prioritizing ethical practices and empowering employees to speak up without fear of retaliation. Slowly but surely, the company began to heal, regaining the trust it had lost. For Emma, the journey wasn't without its challenges. Stepping into such a high-stakes environment had tested her limits, forcing her to confront insecurities she hadn't realized she carried. But along the way, she discovered strengths she never knew she possessed: resilience, leadership, and an unshakable belief in doing what was right. And though she remained humble, refusing to let success change her core values, she couldn't deny the sense of fulfillment that came with making a difference. As for Liam, he found redemption not just in rebuilding his company, but in rediscovering himself. Emma had shown him that wealth and power meant nothing without integrity, and he vowed never to forget that lesson again. Their bond deepened, evolving from gratitude to genuine partnership, and eventually love. They weren't perfect, but together they balanced each other out, creating a future neither could have imagined alone. In the end, the story became more than just a tale of corporate intrigue or unexpected romance. It was a reminder that kindness, even in its smallest forms, can ripple outward, changing lives in ways we may never fully understand. Emma's decision to take in a stranger had sparked a chain reaction that reshaped not only her destiny, but the destinies of countless others. And though the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, they faced it together, ready to tackle whatever came next. Years later, when asked about the night that changed everything, Emma would smile softly and say, "I didn't know it then, but sometimes the people who need saving aren't the ones sitting in the corner of a cafe. They're the ones standing beside you, waiting for a second chance."